Right, so I've been thinking about making this video for a while. Partly because I think we're at a really interesting part of this journey, and partly because I don't think I've ever properly stopped and talked about where we're actually at. If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know this whole thing has moved pretty quickly, okay? 2 years ago, I was refereeing on local parks in Gloucestershire. Now I've had the opportunity to referee County Cup finals, I've been over to Cyprus, I've been to Boston, and I've worked with some incredible referees. And assuming that I can get through the fitness test, I'll be refereeing at level 4 next season. To be honest, when I say it like that, it sounds pretty impressive, but the reality is it doesn't really feel like that when you're living it. It just feels like the next game, then the next game, then the next game, but every now and then it is worth stepping back and looking. Because honestly, if you'd have shown me all of this 2 years ago, I probably would have laughed and told you there's absolutely no chance. And the other reason I wanted to make this video is because, well, I left my job last week. Before you get concerned in the comments, I know it sounds pretty dramatic, but the reality is it's not as dramatic as it sounds. I'm not sat here having quit everything just to become a full-time YouTuber. That's not really what's happened. Thankfully, I received a settlement from my previous employer, which means I've got a bit of breathing room. And more importantly, I've got some time. For the last couple of years, refereeing and doing this channel, I've basically been trying to juggle everything, right? Work during the week, refereeing at the weekends, YouTube wherever I could fit it in, plus having a young family. And if I'm honest, most of the time it felt like I was constantly behind on something. But now I've actually got time to focus properly on it, to train properly, to review the games properly, to spend more time creating content, and to see what happens if I genuinely commit to becoming a professional referee. And look, I've got a wife, I've got a daughter, I've got rent to pay. This isn't something I would have done if it, would have been detrimental to my family, but I've realized I've got a real opportunity to give this a proper shot. And I'd rather find out what happens than spend the next 20 years wondering what would have if I didn't. Will I make it? Honestly, I haven't got a clue. I genuinely haven't got a clue. But for the first time, I actually have a chance to find out. And the funny thing is, when I started refereeing, none of this was the plan. There wasn't a plan. I wasn't looking at the refereeing pyramid thinking, right, let's get to the Premier League. I wasn't creating a YouTube channel around some long-term vision. I just missed football. That was it. I'd stopped doing what I loved the most, and I wanted a way to stay involved in the game. And refereeing seemed like a good option. That genuinely was as much thought as I'd given it. Then one season turned into 2, one promotion turned into another, and the opportunities just got bigger. The games got bigger. And before I knew it, I was sitting in rooms with referees I'd only ever seen on TV. I guess it's funny how these things happen. You don't really notice it at the time. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and suddenly you look back and realise you've come quite a long way. And one thing that's really surprised me during this journey is how little people actually know of refereeing. Honestly, they know nothing. Because everyone sees the game, right? Everyone sees the whistle, everyone sees the cards, but nobody sees what happens after the game. No one sees what happens in between the games. Nobody sees the drive home when you're replaying the same incident in your head for 45 minutes. Nobody sees the time where you're watching the clip back 5, 6 times trying to work out whether you got it right. Nobody sees any of that. No one sees the conversations with the mentors. No one sees the assessments. No one sees the self-analysis. No one sees the moment where you're sat there thinking. And I guess that's the bit that I kind of find interesting, because that's where referees improve. They don't improve on YouTube. They don't improve in the comments. It's all the stuff that happens after the final whistle. And I think that's probably the side of refereeing that gets talked about the least. And that's kind of got me thinking about the decision making probably a bit more than is healthy, to be honest, because when you strip everything away, that's really what refereeing comes down to in the eyes of fans and players. People will talk about fitness, people will talk about positioning, people will talk about match control, and don't get me wrong, all of that matters, but eventually the game's going to ask you a question and you've got to answer it. Was it a penalty? Was it handball? Is it a red card? And you've normally got about half a second to decide, right? And you don't have a replay, you don't have slow motion, you don't have a chance to have another look. You know, I was actually reading the other day that Premier League referees last season achieved around 86% decision-making accuracy on KMIs. When I first thought that, I thought, 86%, that seems pretty low. But then I started thinking about some of the decisions I've had over the last few seasons and realised that's actually probably pretty impressive, because the job's bloody hard. It's really hard. And I suppose that's the question I want answered this season. How good is my decision making? Not how good do I think it is, not what the TikTok think, but how good is it really? Because at the end of the day, nobody gets promoted because they make YouTube videos, right? They get promoted because their performances justify it and people believe that they're good enough. And the performances are built on decisions, which brings me to the thing I'm probably most excited about for this coming season, the KMI panel. The idea actually came to me from thinking about the question, how do I know if I'm actually making the right decisions? So this season, whenever I have a major incident in a game, members of the channel are going to get access to that footage before anybody else. No explanation from me, no breakdown, no leading questions, just the clip. And you're going to watch and decide what you think the outcome should have been. Then once the voting is closed, I'll reveal exactly what I gave on the pitch, and we're going to keep track of my decision-making accuracy throughout the season. If the panel sees something differently to me, I want to know why, right? Maybe I've missed something. Maybe you've spotted something I haven't. Maybe we'll completely disagree. But I think those conversations are going to be fascinating, and we can share that with the wider audience. In a strange way, it's going to feel like you guys are part of my refereeing team. Not standing on the sidelines watching, but actually helping review the journey as it happens. Now, obviously, that is going to sit behind the membership because it's going to involve match footage before the main video goes out. But honestly, I think it could become one of the best parts of this community. And one thing I want to make clear from the start is this isn't going to be a highlight reel, because that is boring and it's not real. There are going to be games this year where I come home buzzing, and there'll be games where I spend half the evening annoyed at myself. There'll be decisions that I'm really proud of, and there's going to be some decisions that I probably wish I could take back. But I want to show you guys all of that. Because if the whole point of the series is finding out whether I can keep progressing to the professional game, then hiding the difficult bits would be pretty pointless. The interesting part isn't whether things always go well. I know it's what happens when they don't. So that's where we're at. I've still got to get through the fitness test in a couple of weeks, which is slightly annoying because I passed it last year and I've passed another one for FA Core, but that's okay. Honestly, I have no idea what this channel looks like in a few years. I don't know how far I'll get. I don't know whether I actually make it to professional game. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe the YouTube channel will be the reason I won't. But I think it'll be pretty interesting to find out. And if you've been here since the beginning, thank you, genuinely. Because 2 years ago, I was refereeing on local parks and uploading videos that hardly anybody watched. And the fact that tens of thousands of you care enough to follow this journey is something I'll never ever take for granted. If you're new here and somehow you've made it this far and you want to follow along, you can subscribe. And if you'd like to be part of the KMI panel and help the biggest decisions I make this season, you can join the membership down below. Thank you.